All right, 8th graders, this is to help you with question 8 on CR16. Triangle STP has coordinates S, -2, -5, T, -6, -5, and P, -6, -3. On the grid, graph and label triangle STP. So that's what I'm going to do. And I have to tell you, some of my students are still having issues with graphing points. You always start at the origin. And then the first coordinate tells you left or right. So if it's -2, it means move left 2 from the origin. -5 means move down 5. So from the origin, I'm going to move left 2 and down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that point will actually be down here in the third quadrant. T, -6, -5. Again, I would start at the origin. I'd move 6 left and 5 down. So I'd go 6 left and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. We'll call that one T. P is -6, -3. So this one's 6 left, 3 down from the origin. These are all in the third quadrant. 6 left and 1, 2, 3 down. That will be P. So it's this beautiful right triangle. All right, so that's A, we've handled that. Graph the reflection of triangle STP through the x-axis. Label the vertices S prime, T prime, and P prime with the corresponding coordinates. Okay, with the corresponding coordinates means they want us to also label the coordinates. So if S, here's our x-axis, so I'm just going to make sure I'm reminding myself that I am reflecting or flipping it over the x-axis. S is 5 below the x-axis. So I'm going to graph it here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 above the x-axis. I'm going to call that S prime. And the coordinates of that would be from 0, 0, 2 left and 5 up. 2 left is -2. 5 up is +5. The original S had been -2, -5. So hopefully you can see the x coordinate stayed exactly the same and the y coordinate changed sign when I reflected over the x-axis. Now let's go ahead and handle T. T is 5 below the x-axis. So T prime, I'm going to plot 5 above the x-axis. And T prime will have coordinates -6, +5. -6, +5. The original T had been -6, -5. So hopefully you can see the x coordinate remained exactly the same and the y coordinate changed sign when I'm reflecting over the x-axis. And finally, let's plot P prime. So P was 3 below the x-axis, so I'll plot it 1, 2, 3 above the x-axis. And there we have P prime. P prime would be -6, +3. I have this beautiful right triangle. That's a mirror image of the original. Again, the original P was -6, -3. Hopefully, again, you notice when we reflect over the x-axis, the x coordinate stays the same, the y coordinate changes sign. I've just done part B. And I've labeled the corresponding coordinates and everything. Graph the reflection of the original triangle STP through the y-axis this time. Label those vertices S double prime, T double prime, P double prime with corresponding coordinates. Okay, now they ask me to reflect the original over the y-axis. So that's what I'll do. So I'll make sure I remind myself where the y-axis is. If S was 2 to the left of the y-axis, S double prime will be 2 to the right of the y-axis. I'll call that S double prime. I'm just going to erase this for a moment. Oops, sorry about that. So this will be S double prime. And that now is 2 to the right, 5 down. So that's positive 2, negative 5. Hopefully you can see this time the y coordinate remained the same when I reflected over the y-axis, and the x coordinate changed sign. If P is 6 to the left of the y-axis, P prime will be 6 to the right of the y-axis. So there's P prime. That will be a positive 6, comma, negative 3. Again, x coordinate changed sign. It went from a negative to a positive. Y coordinate remained exactly the same. Now let's do T prime. T is 6 to the left of the y-axis. So on that same grid line, I'm going to go 6 to the right of the y-axis. Plot a lovely point there, and that will be T. Oops, these should have double primes. T double prime is positive 6, negative 5. So hopefully you can see the x coordinate now changed sign. When I reflect over the y-axis, the y coordinate remained the same. And I have a beautiful mirror image of the original now over the y-axis. So I'm done with C. If the coordinates of a point are C, comma, D, explain how to find the coordinates of the reflection of that point through the x-axis and then through the y. Okay, so through the x-axis, if we start C, comma, D, and we're reflecting over the x-axis. So when we reflect over the x-axis, your first coordinate just remains the same. So your x coordinate just remains the same. But your y coordinate, that second coordinate, has to change sign. So if it started as D, you gotta negate D. Over the x-axis, the first coordinate stays the same. Second coordinate is what changes sign. And now over the y-axis, if we start with CD, over the y-axis, we take a look at S and S double prime. Now look at those original x coordinates. How do they change? Went from negative to a positive, so it changed sign. And how do we show that we've changed sign? If you start with C, you just negate C. Because if you were at a negative 2, negative 2 would get us to this positive 2. So you just, if you're reflecting over the y-axis, you change the sign of the first coordinate, and guess what happens to the second coordinate? That y coordinate just remains the same when we go over the y-axis. All right, I hope that helps.